Wow, wow, wow. We are back again. Missy and Shane are back again for Reese's Gorman Legacy through organ donation. So, welcome back to the show, my co host, my partner, my sister. And I think we have a special guest today. Why don't you introduce your special guest today?
Yeah, so today we have Katie Levins, who was the RN at the hospital who worked for LOPA, who stood by my son's side through all of it. I wasn't there with her. I don't know everything she did, but having her there and knowing that she was with my son through all of it brought me, if I can even use the word comfort in that kind of time, but it did bring added comfort to me in the fact that I was going through a horrible tragedy. And it just so happened that Katie we're not blood relatives by no means. She actually is the cousin of my sister-in-law. So it's kind of like, my brother's husband, sister's brother, sister, cousin, that.
You guys got a lot of weird stuff going on in Louisiana. I can tell you right now. Us
Yeah,
Wisconsinites. Okay, well, on
nothing.
that note, let me get our disclosure out real quick that this show is our opinions.
Yeah,
This show is not based on everybody else's opinions. What you hear here today is our opinions. The host and the guest, these are our personal opinions and events that has happened with them or us in a time frame.
correct.
Okay. All right. So on that note, Missy, go ahead. I apologize for interrupting you.
That's
Nice smile,
okay.
by the way. It's good to see you smiling today and not yelling at me. Just
Uh-huh.
everybody knows.
So, Katie, I'll just start with the first question. I'll make a statement first, and that is, when Reese was in his accident, I do not really remember the entire hospital experience. I remember bits and pieces of it, and I remember you being there, and I remember me asking you to please stay by Reese's side. And from there, it's bits and pieces, and people just, tell me, and I either remember them or I don't. So you can say whatever you want to say, but how did you feel about it? Describe your emotions or whatever you'd like to tell.
I mean, initially it was, shocking to even know that you were going through something like that. Nobody ever wants to imagine what it's like to lose a child or to have somebody that you know and love to lose a child. Um, so devastation initially. And then when I realized that he was going to be an organ donor, um, and made LOPA aware that I knew you and I knew Reese, they did whatever they needed to do to make sure that I could be there.
Mm-hmm.
I had other coordinators that switched shifts with me and that worked half a day so that I could be there, because typically we work 24-hour shifts, because Missy had expressed she wanted me to be there for the OR. So it was hard, but it was amazing. I wouldn't have traded it for anything. It coincidentally, when they started the case with for Reese, it takes 36 to 72 hours depending from start to finish. So it's not like a one-day process. It was my son's 16th birthday. So that hit very close to home. He was about to get his driver's license, and I also use it as a learning experience for him. It gives me the chills. Just, you don't want to have anybody else in that situation.
Right.
So for 3 days, I was back and forth and answering calls after I had left and keeping everybody informed. It was an exhausting 3 days, but I wouldn't have changed it. everybody stands around and thinks, what can I do? What can I say? How can I help? When in reality, there's nothing you can do, say, or anything else. So if me being there was going to give Missy 1/10 of peace in the situation, then I was willing to do whatever.
So let me ask you this real quick, Katie. What was your job at that time for the hospital? What was your title?
I actually was an employee of LOPA.
Okay.
So I was a organ recovery coordinator. So my job was, once family consents to organ donation, at that point in time, I would go in and we take over care of the patient. We start doing things to optimize organ function, and start all the testing process. All the lab work is sent off, all the studies that we need to do. If we need to do echoes to look at heart function, or, you know, x-rays for lung function and different things like that. And so we go from the beginning to the end until we go to the OR to recover.
Okay, so it's not like, okay, we're not going to get, I don't want to get into like the big patients thing. If anything, we'll use Reese's because mom's here. But your job at the time was to make sure at the time that they found out that somebody was donating their organs, that you got involved at that point, from the point that they found out to the point that the organs were harvested, correct?
Correct.
And you were talking to the families and everything else at that time, correct?
No, so actually the family advocates are the ones that approach families initially. They are amazing people and they have the hardest job ever. They will spend hours, days doing whatever needs to be done for these families. So they initially go in and provide support for the family, and then request consent and give them the option.
So you're there with the patient during the whole.
Once they sign consent that, yes, I want my loved one to be an organ donor, then at that point, that's when I would go in. And the family advocate stays around and they still provide support to the family.
Even after the whole time frame, right, Missy? I mean, this is not just a one day. I mean, this goes on for years and years and years after the fact.
As long as I want it.
Yeah, so LOPA does a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, LOPA does a lot. So now I'm going to go back in time a little bit. Katie and Missy, when you guys seen each other in the hospital, I know it had to be tough because Katie, you knew Missy and Reese, correct? You knew them at that time. Did you know when you got the call that it was Reese? Did you know at that point?
Yes, because my cousin's daughter had called me because Reese was hurt and had told me what had happened. And then, yes, once Missy had given consent, then I was aware and made it to where I'd be able to go to be there for her and for Reese.
That had to be hard for you though, not just as a nurse, but you know, seeing somebody going through it still bothers you as a human, right? I mean, it doesn't matter who it is, but knowing that you know the person, that had to be 3 times or a lot worse, correct?
Yeah, it was. It's never easy. I have been an ICU nurse now for 15 years. We learn to compartmentalize very quickly because you can't do the job. You know, you have to learn to put everything else aside and not get your own emotions involved, because then you can't do your job the way you need to do it. So sometimes people think we come across as cold or having a horrible sense of humor. And yeah, sometimes we do have a horrible sense of humor, but when you deal with what we deal with every day,
absolutely,
you have to find some comedy in horrible situations to survive.
Absolutely. I've been there, done that. I definitely know what you're saying. And your life changes at that point because you're changing your mentality for the situation you're in.
Yes.
And what people don't understand as a nurse, and thank you both for what you do. You guys are heroes in my book every day plus Sunday. And I think you deserve a lot more in your lives, both of you. And people don't understand that the day in, day out of being a nurse, a doctor, firefighters, police, military, they don't understand that your mentality changes because it's traumatizing.
Yes.
Traumatizing, and it doesn't matter how long you've been doing it or how you try to compartmentalize it, it ain't going to change the fact that eventually it's going to catch up.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And I mean, knowing into family member is a lot more difficult. But Missy, tell me in your words what it was like to know that Katie was there. What mentally, how did it help you? And mentally, how did it bring a little, sense of comfort for you?
So I'm gonna get a little deep here.
Dig.
Because you know, I'm constantly saying that I'm glad that I knew Reese's wishes, because it made the decision easy for me. But it doesn't move around the fact that my son is in there fighting for his life. And once he wasn't viable, I guess is the word I should use, anymore, I knew that Katie was going to be sitting next to my son's side the whole entire time and making sure that they took care of my son and kept his dignity until the very end. I mean, you go to dark places in your mind, when they ask you, okay, you're going to allow him to be an organ donor, but you get to choose. I am ashamed to say that the one thing I just couldn't fathom was them taking his eyes, his corneas. And I said no to the eye part of it. 4 years later, knowing more about it, learning more about it, I should have. But I had a brief conversation with Katie. I don't know if it was me still trying to hold on to control, or because it just freaked me out to think about it. And I knew that she would be in there seeing to it that, everything was done, and that until the end, my son's body still went out with dignity. That's the best way I can describe it, because you can go really deep into your brain and start imagining how they do it, what they do, how they handle your loved one prior to, and as a nurse, we are taught, and as I'm not a doctor, but I'm sure doctors are also, educated on, you take care of this person and their remains with the utmost dignity and respect that you can until they're in the ground. And so, I don't even want to go there in the thoughts that went through my mind, but there were many, many crazy, horrible thoughts going through my mind, that his body would be disrespected,
Disfigured.
and disfigured, how they handled him, how they moved him on the table, even dark things like that affected me. But knowing that Katie was there, I knew she wouldn't allow that to happen. That's kind of a little brief synopsis of that.
So for one, thank you for sharing that. I mean, again, Missy, we talked about this many times, and I'm sure Katie can also attest to this, that you telling your story the way you're telling it is giving a voice to people that don't want to talk about it, right? There's so many people out there that need that voice right now, and Missy, that you're the one doing it, and I'm very proud of you. And this is just, I told you, it's just the beginning, and it has to be. I couldn't even imagine as a parent. I mean, I got 5 kids. I mean, my girls drive me absolutely crazy, and I love them to death, but you know, I mean, my son acts more like a girl than my girls do. Just kidding, Blake. I'm just kidding. Don't get mad at dad. But, you know, I am blessed to have, you know, 5 grandkids and 5 kids. And I know how you're feeling, and I get it. And well, actually, I don't know how you're feeling, but I do know that I will be here through this process, and so will Katie. And we are very proud that you can stand up and talk about it.
Yeah, it's hard to go there, and you know, there's certain scenarios that I just don't feel like I should say out loud, but you know, I'll leave it to everyone's imagination. But when it is your loved one that somebody is taking care of, handling, you know, manipulating, or whatever word you want to use, you can't be there. So you want to know that they're respecting him in life and in death. And having Katie there, I knew that he wouldn't be disrespected, you know. So, and then 4 years later, almost, I'm coming to the realization that I've got to quit being so selfish in my own feelings, that I'm the one that this happened to. It's not just me. It happened to my in-laws. It happened to my ex-husband. It happened to my mom, my son, my aunt, my aunts, uncles, you know, my in-laws, Katie, who watched Reese grow up. You know, I respect her more today, you know, because now I'm able to realize that she struggled too. You know,
Absolutely. And her and I we're gonna have a conversation with her about that too. So, you know, and again, the death of somebody affects many of people, not just one, right?
right.
So, Katie, on your behalf, that's a good place to start. I know for you as a nurse, you tried to put stuff aside, but deep down inside, we all know that people have emotions. As a soldier, watching stuff go on, you know, I can say what I want, but over a certain amount of time, that does affect me as a human. The stuff that we see, the stuff that we do, the, you know, just war itself. In your mind, it is a war to go watch a family member go through this. So, knowing Reese as much as you did, I want you to kind of give a synopsis of how you came up to her, what was happening when you guys came up and talked, and then try to go from there and carry it through to, you know, somewhat towards the end, but not all the way. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, and if
Okay.
I could add to that, and also just mention the things that I apparently did that I didn't even remember doing.
You sure you want to do that now?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do it now. We'll do it now. All right. Okay. Hold on. Let me put record on. Oh, never mind. We're already recording. Go ahead, Katie.
Honestly, there were no words initially when we saw each other. It was just an immediate hug and holding on to each other. And, you know, there were no words to say. It was, you know, heartbreaking. I could tell by the look in her face she wasn't there, if that makes sense. Physically, she was there. You know, she was having conversations with me, but I can't even imagine what was going on in her mind. And I've, you know, unfortunately, I've seen that too many times with other families where you can just look at the pure devastation and shock in their face. We know they're not really comprehending anything at that point. We say things over and over again and try to make it as simple as possible. You know, we talked about the process and what was going to happen. And, you know, I answered some of her questions. When we briefly talked the other day, you know, she didn't remember. I remembered a lot of Reese's friends coming to the hospital, and Missy was taking them in one at a time to see him. She's like, I don't even remember that. And I was like, yes, and you were being the mama, just like a mama would with all the little chickens, you know, making sure that they were okay and providing support for them. So that was I think that was the night of surgery. everybody was coming because they had planned to line the hallways to do a hero walk for Reese. And our OR time kept getting pushed back, which happens. So a lot of them were going in to see him. And they did all line the halls. And, you know, I gave Missy one last hug and told her I promised I would take care of her baby. And we did.
Yep.
And you've taken care of a lot of people's babies, I'm sure, throughout your time. How long did you work at LOPA for?
2.5 years.
Okay, so at a 2.5 year span, I'm sure there was a lot of people that you took care of through that process.
Yes.
And I'm sure that none was more than the other, and I'm sure they all affected you the same way. And so you get through the process of the surgery, okay, and you finally get in, and everything's coming to the, you know, they harvest everything they were going to get to save people's lives, because people don't understand he saved people's lives. He's a hero. From the word hero, you should see a picture of these loved ones who have passed on and given their organs to. And then you and I were talking before we start recording. You said it was a very long and strenuous process to get matches and all that stuff. And so after everything was done and said, did you go out and talk to Missy at this point?
No. Typically, once we go to the OR, most of the time families will leave at that point. You know, so that's kind of like the last. I think I called that night after everything was finished to let her know that the surgery was complete, you know, and that what was able to be recovered. Because even though we have an idea prior to surgery, until they actually get in there and look at the organs during that time, they don't know 100%. They kind of have what they're thinking, but you never know what you're going to find. So I talked to her after to let her know that everything was done and, you know, that he was well taken care of.
Yeah, the one thing that I could not remember, and I told her yesterday when we spoke, I said, you know, I don't know if I ever really told you how much I appreciate you and what you did. And what did you say to me, Katie?
I wouldn't have changed it for anything. It was the most wonderful thing. I felt like I was the one person that was able to do just a little bit of something to make this horrible situation a tiny bit better. So I wasn't, it didn't matter.
I didn't even recall even telling her thank you. And she reassured me that I did at times when I went back. You know.
Yeah, you had said too, you weren't sure that you saw him again. I'm like, no, you did. You saw him a couple of times, few times. Because it was just a blur. She was, you know, there and not there at the same time.
I think that's common though for most people that go through a trauma that of that magnitude. You know, you're kind of, what's that, tunnel visioned at that point?
Yeah.
You know,
I was dead set on facts. I wanted to know. I remember that. I wanted to know who, what, when, where, why, how, and how come. You know, I wanted to know every step of the way. I needed to know for a fact that he, you know, was not going to make it before, you know, I was going to, you know, I just,
but you wanted answers though.
And
well, of course you did. I mean, and you should have. I mean, that's the part about being a parent. You know, it's tough, you know, and people say you stop parenting. No, you don't. You never stop parenting your kids. No matter how old they get, you always want to be there to parent your kids. And you know, again, one of them's calling right now. I mean, my wife's in the background getting ready to talk. Ironic, don't you think? You know, and we got a daughter who's going to get married. Dad's the first call I get. Dad, I need this. Well, don't you think that this might help? You know, you're always helping, trying to help, being a good parent. And on the other hand of that, Missy, it's the same thing. Your son went through a traumatic thing and you wanted answers. You deserved answers. In your mind, you wanted those answers. Absolutely not. It doesn't matter what you did for a living. As a mother, you wanted answers. And I'm sure if Katie was in your circumstance, she'd want the same thing. She'd want answers. I know I would.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know
Right?
I was in fight or flight mode. I know that for a fact, you know, anxiety high, adrenaline high, you know, just looking for something or anything, to keep
Right?
my mind occupied, you know, hoping for the best, but finding out the worst, you know, and Katie, maybe you can explain it a little better than I can in that, I don't want to speak, incorrectly in saying that, isn't there a protocol, a hospital protocol, that if
Yeah.
a certain type of injury comes in, they ask no matter what?
It's not so much the type of injury. It is based on certain factors, whether or not they're on a ventilator, whether or not they're able to follow any commands. So different processes that kind of determine how critically ill someone is. They're required to report it to LOPA.
Right. But because they have those doesn't necessarily mean that they are gonna die until you
No,
find out they're gonna die.
there were plenty of times that what we did, we kind of followed along. Okay. LOPA does not approach a family until the physician is going to either have one of two conversations. They plan to do brain death studies, or they plan to have a conversation about withdrawal of care because, you know, the prognosis is so poor. So even though we're following along, there were plenty of times that those patients got better. You know, it's not an always thing. So, and until those decisions are made or it's really determined by the physician that, you know, the outcomes are going to be very poor, you know, LOPA doesn't get involved at all until, you know, the appropriate time.
Yeah.
So
Because
yes,
it wasn't the first thing that they came to me with. I
No.
mean, we were there. He was there fighting for his life. They were doing everything that they could to try to, you know, to save his life. It was only until a certain, you know, I don't know exactly when it was, but it, you know, it was only at a certain point did they come and ask. So,
Yeah.
you know, they do try to, and Katie can attest to that. Several people you've probably been called out on with LOPA ended up making a full and great recovery, correct?
Yeah. It just, you know, it depends. So there's a lot of factors that are involved when they even make that phone call. You know, sometimes there's been medications that were given that can kind of hide the true underlying ability of the patient. So some of the things they're looking for are like basic reflexes without any types of sedation. Is the patient's pupils reactive? Do they have a cough and a gag? These are very basic brainstem functions. Are they able to breathe over the ventilator? So as long as those things are there, you know, the patient can't be declared brain dead. Now, they can have basic brainstem function, but not have the outlook of any meaningful type recovery, meaning they would always be required to be on a ventilator. They would always be required to be fed, you know, through a tube. They would always require 24/7 around the clock care. And so at that point, that's presented to the families of whether or not, you know, that's what that person would want. If that's how they would want to spend, you know, their last days. So families make the choice of whether or not they want to continue care or stop care and let them pass naturally.
And there's a fine line, right, of time frame through all this to
Yes.
harvest organs, correct?
Yes. The longer the patient is on a ventilator, the longer they're in that critical state and the hospital is trying to keep them alive, the more damage that's done to the organs. You know, one of the things we did when we would come in is start doing things to try to optimize organ function again, so that they can be transplanted, so that they can save someone else's life. You know, but being in that critical state, having a lack of blood pressure, being on a ventilator, all those things cause a lot of damage to the organs.
Medication does a lot of damage too, doesn't it? The more medications they get in their body can affect certain organs as well, correct?
Yes, they can.
That's what happened to my
Especially
mom.
overuse of them. Yeah.
Yeah, my mom had COPD and, you know, her organ shut down.
Yeah.
On a ventilator, you know, and she swelled up huge, and it was man, I had to make the call, and I'll tell you what, that was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, is make the call, you know, for that point. But yeah, so time frame goes on. You two are, time goes after. Let's talk about the after effect, okay? Both of you. So everything happened, organs were harvested, resaved lives. Okay, hero. We all know this. Okay, we can't say it enough. Mom's a hero for signing the paper so he could help save lives because you knew what he wanted.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't have never done it if you didn't know. And that's commendable as a mom. I think that everybody should have that talk with their children.
I
Just
think
like
it would have
you
been
said,
more
Katie, it was a learning
difficult.
experience for you. You know, you use this as a learning experience for your kids, Katie, and I that's just impressive. So a couple days probably have passed before you guys talked again, correct? Probably.
Well, I think I don't know that we. I mean, I don't remember a lot, but I mean, I'm pretty sure she was at the
I
funeral.
know it was, actually I wasn't at the funeral because I was working.
Yeah. Okay.
I was on a case, so wasn't able to go. But I know we talked again. She had reached out to me not long after everything was said and done, wondering about how she could potentially go about finding out who received Reese's gifts. So then I had put her in contact with some of the other people at LOPA that, you know, follow up and that would give her all the information she needed about the hows, the whys, and, you know, to move forward with that.
And is that a common thing with LOPA and you know, them trying to help people reconnect and connect with people that have received organs and stuff? Is that something that when people ask, they help them with?
And now they don't give direct information.
Correct.
But if the donor family would like to know, then they will reach out to the recipient's transplant center. And that transplant center will then in turn talk to the recipient and let them know that, you know, the donor family is asking. And then they can kind of decide. And if they choose, they would send something back to LOPA, and then in turn, LOPA would forward that on to Missy.
Yeah.
Which is a very good thing.
Yeah, a lot of families do, you know, want that opportunity. It's making something beautiful out of a horrible situation.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And Libby Harrison is my sponsor, and I cannot say enough great things about her. She's one of my guardian angels. I know it.
Amazing.
That's who I reach out to. That's who I talk to. That's who I cry to. And she's the one that pushes me, you know, not hard, but just she gives me that extra little oomph to say, you know what? Just write them a letter. What could it hurt? You know, because she knew what I wanted based upon our conversations. I was just scared. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. She helped me, you know.
I remember you sent me the letter too. Does this sound okay?
Yeah. Yes, I do. I always run it by her, and I ask her, you know, should I change anything or anything like that. But, you know, I've written probably, you know, quite a few, and I've helped a few other people write letters now. So, you know, that's why on this channel, I invite anyone to reach out in the comment section or, you know, direct message me on Facebook, whatever. If I can help, I want to help. I want to reach as many people. I want to bring as many families together as I possibly can. I want to share this wonderful thing that happened out of a horrible tragedy in my life and make other people's lives better too. And put a smile back on some people's faces, because believe me, I didn't smile for quite a while.
Well, knowing you, Missy, you probably wrote like 50 letters and you had them vote to see which ones to send. So let's just face the facts here, all right? You know what I mean? Okay, yeah, ow. I got a black eye now. I'm calling abuse. You know, and you brought up a good point that, you know, this just didn't affect you. It affected many people, you know. Katie, out of all the times that you were doing this as a nurse, did it ever get to a point where you felt like there was people that didn't care? And again, we don't bring names or anything like that up, but did you ever feel like there was people at some point that didn't care?
No.
Pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you sit and think about it, all these times or for 2 years that you did this, how many times did you go in with a family member or a loved one that the family didn't care?
No, they all care. It's
Pretty impressive. That's power.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sure, you know, there's and again, Missy and I have been talking, and we were talking to Katie before that, you know, I'm sure there's people that have gotten organs that, you know, that really don't care. It doesn't matter to them, you know,
But they don't appreciate the gift, and they seem to forget over time, I think, maybe. You know, and I don't think the vast majority by any means. But you know, sometimes we get comfortable in our own skin.
and that's normal though. That's human nature.
Yeah.
And then,
You know, that's a human nature thing, and people don't understand that. But you know, there is people out there. On every good side, there's a bad side.
Right.
yeah.
Right.
And then we cannot forget the whole concept of survivor's guilt. Can't
Right.
There
Yes.
are some recipients that just can't bring themselves to do it. They can't. They feel like they'll break down emotionally if they meet the family member that had to die to make them live. Can't forget them too.
Well, you know, and again, we don't want to talk about our one recorded with Suzette, but you know, she brought that up on her side as well. There's a good and a bad to all this, and you know, the tragedy and the success stories coincide, right? I mean, Katie, for what she did for working for LOPA for 2 years, I mean, that's a success, but it's not. You know, she helped people, she helped save lives. You know what I mean? What she did was be there for the patients and save lives. And nobody can take that away from Katie, but people will always try to say, well, you know, that you're not being thoughtful, or you know, you know, you're not being graceful about this. Well, until you walk a mile in Katie's shoes, you should probably watch what you say or how you say it, because it's always easy to be on the other side of the fence casting stones.
That's right.
You know, and the same thing with you, Missy. Everybody's got an opinion. Right? Nobody can be in your shoes until they walk that mile in it.
That's right.
And I'm sure there's people out there who've lost loved ones that have a different philosophy because of how they were raised or whatever. But that doesn't change the fact that out of every one, Missy, there's a million more like you out there. Yes. And I'll bet the percentages are a lot less of people that aren't like you than are. So, you know, there will be a time that this will all come out. And Katie, what I really hope, and I'm praying, and tonight I will pray hard, I hope that people ask you questions underneath this video when it gets posted.
Me too.
I really do, Katie, because you know, you have a lot of knowledge, and you have a lot of spirit, and it's hard to find anymore.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? And what you did for Reese and the many other people, other patients. If that was me, I would hope that you'd be standing next to me, holding my beard up. You know what I mean? Look, it's my cousin. I mean, I got to hold his beard. He said if I didn't braid it while he was getting his organs thing, he's going to haunt me, right? Because I'm going to haunt you if you don't hold my beard up, right, Missy?
Yeah, that's right. He means it.
But there's a light to all this, and like Woody does with his stuff. There's a lot of tragedy in Woody's life as being a detective, but he's also saved a lot of lives, just like you have, Katie, and just like you have, Missy. That's a blessing.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't be more proud to have these two women sitting next to me. Well, not next to me, kind of, sort of. But, I mean, if I could raise a beard to both of you, I would in a heartbeat. But again, I'm just a hunter. Come on in. We're recording, but you can still come in. Hey, everybody. Jeff from County Lines here.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, yay. He's bringing a roast. See, Missy, I told you, there's always surprise guests coming in. Katie, welcome to our world. And everybody said this is scripted.
Hello, everybody.
Say hi to Jeff County Line, everybody. All right.
Oh, the weather looks beautiful there.
Yeah, it's 80 degrees, or no, it's 60 degrees there.
Nice.
Yeah. See what I mean? So, Katie, Jeff is the one that donated the $250 gift card that Missy won at the Crew Bash.
Yeah.
It was at Bass Pro Shop. So
yeah. So now I got to go buy all my equipment to go hunting up there.
yeah, and I got a bone to pick with you. She was trying to send me lunch from you guys yesterday, and you didn't want it delivered to my house.
Well, that's because my delivery driver called in sick.
Yeah, well, you're my delivery driver.
Yeah, I was trying to surprise him with lunch today, and I spoke with a young lady kind of late yesterday evening, and I didn't know your name. I just knew, you were friends with him. And I said, I'm trying to get a special secret lunch delivered to Shane McBride. Do y'all like deliver or anything? She's like, I'm sorry.
Hey, I got denied. After cooking gumbo for you, I got denied. Yeah, so you know what? This is our show. I mean, we get surprise guests all the time. And he's not a doctor. Well, he could be. He stayed at Holiday Inn Express last night, so we could call you back.
I could be a doctor. I could be a lawyer. I wear many hats.
That's right.
Yeah, there you go.
Depends on the direction.
Everywhere it turns, it's a new one, right?
Yeah.
So, but no, he's coming over for dinner tomorrow night. So I'm gonna make him. He's brought me some pork.
Bone-in pork prime rib.
We're gonna do a pork prime rib, and I
Whoa.
smoked it on my smoker out there,
Yummy.
and I'm
Sounds
so
good.
excited.
Yeah. I would be
So,
too.
yeah, well, I mean, you're not coming.
I can hop on a plane real quick.
Okay, I'll
It's
send you
just
your
around the
ticket. It's
That's
just around the
right.
corner. It's only a 15-hour drive.
Yeah, that's
Easy
it.
peasy.
Easy peasy.
No.
It's not like coffee can't get you here on a rush.
It's probably only like 2 or 3 roads.
Yeah.
It's actually, until you hit St. Louis. How many times have I been to Louisiana now? A bunch.
Yeah.
Driving back and forth from there. I'm surprised I'm even still standing here talking to you guys right now.
Actually, you're sitting talking to him.
Sitting. Okay. You just threw me under the bus. I told them I was a midget. They didn't believe me.
We love
So,
people, all shapes and sizes.
That's right. You better
With
go answer
beards
the
or
phone.
no beards.
Oh my gosh.
With
So-
the beard till
with-
it gets warm out.
Tell a beard, well, I'm leaving mine on because I told you guys were gonna braid it for me when you come out and go hunting. Wow, it's crazy. See, this is our show, and it's always on my end. Missy's like,
Yep.
look, there's nobody coming to my house. Whatever. So, anyways, and back to our original conversation before we got laughing. I think you two have a lot more of this story that needs to be told, to be honest with you. I think this is just the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, if you really think about it, we just touched on the surface of this whole process.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to get into too much detail today because this is Katie's first time on here. Let's not abuse her the first day. We got to abuse her the
Right.
second.
We'll hit her next time, right?
But Katie, it's just amazing what you've done, and to be a hero like you are. I mean, you deserve so much more praise than besides a hunter. You know what I mean? But I think I'm really hoping that people are willing to step out of their box and really take the time and hear my dog bark and to ask you questions on here and really ask, because you've been into the trenches of all this.
Yeah.
And I think that people got a really big misconception of organ donation. Excuse you. We're only trying to record here. You see what I got to deal with?
It's okay.
Look, I'm just,
we love our furry people too.
if something happens, mine are all three pipe off too.
Yeah. So I think that Katie, I really hope that you come back again. I
Well,
really do. I hope this wasn't too uncomfortable for you. Thanks.
No, it's been a pleasure. And, you know, I love educating people about this. And even though I'm not working with them, you know, I still have people, even coworkers that haven't had the same experience that have asked me 1,000,001 questions, because even ICU nurses haven't been exposed to things. So, you know, educating people and is a big part of that.
Yes.
And I think there's a lot more education that you can put out there. And I think, and again, we don't want to get into names, you know, and stuff like that. By all means, I don't want to. I mean, you guys could always use my name. I'm okay with it. But I mean, I think just the story itself and the history and learning and you going through the process and seeing all that you've seen. And same thing with Missy on her side. You know, seeing
I learn with everybody that we have on, like, you know, I've known Katie, you know, since I was probably, I don't know, 25 years old. Ooh, I'm telling my age. But I've known her a very long time, and, you know, just being able to reconnect with her and remember what she did for me and appreciate her more and more every single day. Really being able to take a step back and think about everything that she sacrificed, all the emotions and grief that she had to go through just to be there for me. And it wasn't a small thing. I need you to know that. It was huge. It was huge for me. It gave me comfort in one of the most tragic times of my life. And I can never, ever, ever express my gratitude to you for the sacrifice that you made for me from the bottom of my heart. I mean it.
I appreciate it. I'm glad I could do it. It meant as much to me to be able to do it, I think. Be able to give that little bit of peace to you, to make sure that, you know, Reese was taken care of, that all your family was taken care of, that everybody understood and was on the same page. And, you know, that's why I do what I do.
That's right. And not only that, there's, I don't know, I just lost my train of thought because I started crying. But well, you know, just realizing, you know, all of the people that surround me that had to grieve as much as I did. And you
Nobody
stepping up.
Mama, I'm sorry.
It's okay. That's okay. You know, I try to be, you know, all smiles all the time, but you know what?
I got something. I think I've got dirt in my eye. You guys need to quit throwing dirt in my eye. That is not funny.
But
You know,
I think I'm the one that's the emotional one out of three of us, to be honest with you. For me, this is.
I'm telling you that inside it's all just pushed down. It'll all explode one day, maybe.
yeah, that's what I've done, to be able to talk, because you know I'd be a blubbering mess if I came on here and cried all the time every time.
So what are you saying? I'm a blubbering mess because I come on here and cry all the time?
Yeah, you are.
See this abuse I got to put up with? I think this is elderly abuse.
No, it's all out of love. You got to know that.
Oh, it's all out of love. But this is
Blue
recorded.
sky. You
I
like
know.
blue sky?
Beautiful.
Wait a
Sun
minute.
is bright there.
It's blue sky here too.
Can't see. I see your window.
Yeah, I know. It's blue. And I can't do it because I got the center thing on. So wherever I go, this camera follows me. You guys can't.
Yep.
What?
And
I can come
I have
over here.
I have to reiterate something that Katie said, and I say it every episode, and that is educate.
We have a lot to do to educate. This is just the beginning. People still don't get it.
Right.
I mean, we're just touching the surface right now, sis. I mean, think about it. She just told you a little bit of a story.
Yep.
There's
And
so much
a lot
more
of it
that
I
needs to
didn't
be
know.
said.
I need
Yeah,
the viewers.
I had no idea.
I need
mean,
a lot of the viewers to know that a lot of things that Katie just said, I didn't remember and I didn't know.
So in October, Katie, we got a big surprise for everybody. And we're not going to say what it is right now. But in October, we got a big surprise that me and Missy are going to do together when she comes out here to go hunting. I hope that if you're a big hunter eventually, that you and your family come out here and come to the great state of Wisconsin and go hunting with us. It's a great time. We do so much. We do disabled hunts. I do the disabled vet hunts, like you and I were talking earlier. And also we're going to do the Reese Gorman hunt every year that we're going to donate from Mackler Whitetail Adventures. And if you ever are a hunter and you want to come out, all you have to do is let this young lady know that's on the other side, whether she's this way or this way or this way or that way. All you got to do is let her know. And, you know, you are more than welcome to come out here and hunt big whitetail and have a great time. We cook, eat. It's Woody comes out here. He's coming out at the end of April to come turkey hunting. We got cranberry farmers that want to take everybody out. If you know kids that need to go or whatever, we love it. It's one of the greatest things in my life. Taking care of my sister and my wife and hunting.
There you go. Sounds like.
Yeah, so we appreciate everything you're doing. We're coming to the end of our show on this one, Misty. You know, she's gonna have to come back so we can start the second phase of this. You know that, right?
Would you, Katie, you'll come back?
Yeah.
You come back?
Yeah.
It's not that bad, is it? No, because it's like we're having a conversation. The only difference is I'm getting beat up. And she makes me cry on purpose.
Zoom call, and I'm not really being recorded right now. So, you know, that helps.
No,
Yeah, we're just having a convo. That's it.
Conversation.
you know, and again, if by what you've done, Katie, you say, and again, I say this every show, we save one person, we've done our job.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? All we got to do is get to one person at a time.
That's
We
right.
don't need to get to the masses. All you got to do is get to one person at a time.
That's right.
And time everything's done and over with, you've hit millions. And once those millions have come, whether they subscribe to us or start talking in the backwoods about it, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter to me. All we need to affect is one person.
Right.
Because I can't appreciate it. Hey, thank you both. I appreciate it. I love you both dearly. You guys are both my heroes. You're my angels. Katie, for what you did for LOPA, it's amazing. I want to thank Woody Overton from Real Life Real Crime for
bringing
doing
us
this
together.
again.
Bringing us
you know,
together.
Woody, you have a new fan. Katie's a fan.
Yeah.
Here we go again. I cannot get away from Woody's fans. I thought we were going to have somebody that wasn't a junkie, but again, we got another junkie. So I want to thank Woody and Cindy from the bottom of my heart. Thank them for doing this. This wouldn't have happened without them, Katie. I can't believe because of a podcast, we're doing a recording on organ donation and you are on it.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And you're the superstar. I'm just the
That's
hunter. Just the hunter.
Stop it.
Right?
All right. I guess I'm going to say, see you later, alligator.
After a while, crocodile.
Love y'all.
Love ya.
Love you.